If you have your Bibles with you, kindly join us in opening your Bibles in Luke chapter 10 verse 2. Luke chapter 10 verse 2, which says, He told them, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. This is the word of the Lord. Our trip is very short. Our trip is very short. This is the title of I would not say a poem, but a line that Reverend Peñacerrada shared sa CBYFP alumni, and I will be sharing the story a little bit. That's why I entitled our meditation this morning or this evening as our trip is very short. So with that, let me start by asking, how's your trip? How's your trip? Is it bumpy? Is it very smooth? Are you relaxed? Medyo bumpy? Or are you stressed with the trip? How's the marites and the toilets along the way? Are you traveling light? Or do you have many baggages? Excess baggages. Why did I start with that or with those questions? Because I'm very sure you would agree with me that our life here on earth is a journey. Right? We journey every day. We travel every day. Some of us travel for just a short time. Some of us travel for a very long time. No? And with that, I would like to ask for your prayers in behalf of one of our batchmates. 2 of their family members died just 10 hours away. The mother and the sister. So it's a very difficult time for these friend of mine. And last week, we also witnessed the biennial assembly of our convention. And as I was sharing kay Manay Angga last night during our chat, I said, I'm really praying so hard that I would not deviate our meditation, but as well deal it with a neutral and an inspiring approach, because indeed it was a very bumpy ride. A very bumpy ride. Hi kapatid, good morning. You know, and as Auntie Tite shared this morning, you would somehow have maybe an emotional one, because the situation in our convention has been, many people would see it as a good one, but internally it's a very sad story. But somehow we are thankful that our General Secretary, the Reverend Gerson Narciso, has his eyes on track. Though bumpy as it was, he maintained his composure. Last week, we mentioned and discussed what drives our lives. We also mentioned a few. We had a great time talking about guilt, hatred, anger, fear, and materialism as the common things that would drive our lives. And with these things driving our lives, most of the time, these are the very things that would hinder us or would slow us from our travel or on our journey. I remember 22 years ago, I think it was August, when we went to Singapore during the Baptist World Congress. After the assembly, to make the long story short, no, I didn't expect to see Auntie Tide still there a week after, and a few others. But I was in Tasmania a week after because a family friend sponsored me to be there. So a week after, I didn't spend in Melbourne with my cousins, but in Tasmania. But in relation to traveling, when we were there in the airport, typical Filipino tourists, when you go back, grabe ang baggages. We had so much baggages that we would share the load. Now, Auntie Tess would tell me, if you have more there, I still have a few way to spare. So we would share and divide the baggages. So somehow, everybody was able to board the plane with no baggage left behind because we all shared the weight. For sure, nowadays, 2 weeks after the election, we can still somehow feel a little ripple of the effect. And maybe we are burdened with so many things happening. Not only in our society, but basically going down to basics to our lives, to our work, burdened with our debts, our finances, or maybe our relationships. Last week we mentioned in Facebook, it's also roaming around the world that the Philippines has the most number of block and unfriend thing. So if you look at it, many things would constitute the reasons why we are having a little lag in our travel every day. As a result, because we focus so much on these negative things, we lose track of our mission. Thus, Luke would say there, the harvest is increasing. But sad to say, the laborers are getting fewer. Fewer in the sense that our mission is always tainted with our selfish motives. Yes, we are educationally trained. Many of us have a kilometer of degrees attached to our names. Diba? Gaduluble. Alphabetical ang degrees that are attached into our names. So we are highly educationally trained in many aspects. But why is it that our travel is still a bit slow? I was trying to beat the buzzer during the time of Dr. Bunda's reflection, but my question wasn't able to push through because there's no more time. But I was asking him, and I would ask this question to us right now. Many of us are so educated. Many of us have a lot of experiences that we can say are very useful for our ministry. But why is it that our organization, if I may say, is very slow in growing? I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but some people would say other denominations are growing fast. But we, in our group, we have become stagnant. Our growth is a bit backward. I don't know if you would agree or what can you comment on that? Nag-regress. Correct. You know, it is so sad to hear about it, but correct. If you, crab mentality, correct.
Fried chicken.
Correct, our fried chicken.
Perhaps, not only in this organization, but in most other organizations, you know what? My vested
Self-interest, correct.
So, ano ang mahimong nila if nila anay ginatunan nila?
Exactly. For you there on Facebook, feel free to share your comments, okay? Yes, self-vested interest. That's why I said, Lord, I thank you that I am only here on Zoom watching the business meeting, because you would really cry. How sad.
I only attended, in my whole life, I only attended the convention, the annual assembly of the CPBC, once in Rome. And yes, we were there many times. And I couldn't help but also speak out my feelings of what is going on, of what were, I don't know what in the past, sa Iraq.
Yes. You know, because what saddened me is that a very simple thing would, wow! You know, and sad to say, one of the lady during the business meeting said, is this the way how we do these things? Many of us here are first-timers.
Yes.
You know, new generation, and yet this is what our elders are setting the example.
What about that? Making mountains out of a molehill.
Not just a molehill, Manay. It's just a mole. It's not a hill, but a very small speck of dust.
Yeah.
If I may say. Yeah, very new.
We are, young adults and
Yes, exactly.
And there were 4 young people, youth leaders walk.
2, yeah.
In
the board, yes.
So in other words, it's just like our Philippine politics, the trapos are still there. Traditional politicians are still there.
But
they cannot accept what is going on these
Yeah.
days. We are no longer in the old times. But perhaps we could have learned from the past as well.
Yes.
But we will not dwell on what has happened in the past.
But I'm happy that those winners most of the winners are new faces in the board.
Except for Lando.
Yeah, a few.
Just not know.
Yeah. But anyhow, let's continue. Let's just discuss that during our announcement later on. No, but the point there, my dear brethren, is that how do we use our education, our intelligence? We can discuss the Bible to anybody cover to cover. But in our discussing the scriptures cover to cover to many, do we really understand what we are saying? Do we really put these things into practice? Which I know is very, very hard. That is why I've said years back, almost 11 years ago, I said, I don't want to be a minister because it's very difficult. Like it's very difficult. Carrying the burden of what God has intended us to do is a bit difficult because we have been carrying the earthly burden.
Baggage.
Yes, we have been carrying the earthly baggages that Satan has been providing us since time immemorial. Right? So I'm very sure you would agree with me that instead of focusing on the field that God has given us, we focus on the highway. Right? Instead of riding the bus and the boat during traveling, we are riding the airplane because it's more comfortable. Figure of speech ang lalim. Right? Because if you ride the bus, we can see a lot of things. We can go down anytime. We can have a stopover and enjoy life. Right? But if we ride the plane from one destination to the other, we cannot go skydiving and do many things but to wait and go down to your point of destination. Thus we overlook the harvest down there because we are up here. But if we ride the boat, we ride the bus, we can very see what is going on in the grassroots because we are there. So, in a way, another question is, where are you right now? Are you in the uplands or are you in the lowland? Or are you in Thailand? It is good that we had this pandemic because with the pandemic, we were able to access a lot of online meditation. Right? We have mentioned last week that because of the pandemic, many of us can meditate more than 1 or 2 sermons in one day. With the pandemic, we were able to reach worldwide. Our brethren who are far from us are able to join us virtually. With the pandemic, we have a very excellent excuse of not going to church because it is safe. Right? But before the pandemic started, before the pandemic, we are having a hard time trying to look for excuses not to go to church. Right? We make our work, whether in the office or in the house, be a very excusable reason. Which work is very excusable, right? Very valid. Right? Very valid. Sa bagay, who will wash your clothes if you will not wash? Right? But why wash during the worship time? Right? So we have a lot of reasons to avoid and be absent in church when there was no pandemic. Because we tell ourselves, it's okay, I will wash today anyway, there is still the Vesper service in the afternoon. No, or we will attend the first service at 7 o'clock so that we can still be on time when the mall opens at 10. Or I will just request somebody to bring my offering to church because whatever. Or maybe we would say, magdi-date muna ako kasi ito lang yung time that we could be together. So we have a lot of reasons to skip church before the pandemic. For short, my dear friends, we do not have time for God. We have all the excuses in the world. And as I've said, these reasons are very valid. We always find excellent reasons to make excuses. Maybe some of us would say, well, anyway, I could worship the Lord even though I am not in church. Or maybe some would say, why do I need to go to church? Because the people inside the church are so and so and so. So at least I will not add my sin by not going to church. Right? Kasi pag nag-church tayo, we would see a lot of negative things. So we critique people in church. So instead of focusing on the message and growing, we critique the sermon, we critique the clothes of people, we critique so many things. Thus adding to those, or thus adding to the number of people that we need to harvest. And sad to say, this is not just for our members, for you, but it will also include us ministers, include us church leaders, because sometimes kahit kami na ministers are the very first one that needs to be ministered. Right? Even as leaders, sometimes we would be the very first one that needs to be mentoring. So if the new generation would say, scam yan sila, fake news sila, mga scammer yung mga pastor, mga scammer yung mga church leaders. Right? We can somehow make a joke out of it, but if you look at it closely, it's very painful to admit that yes, somehow we are guilty of it. But it's not yet too late. It's not yet too late because we are still living. We are still breathing. We still have the chance to make it back. Or maybe you would say, mapastor na lang ko eh. But the Bible is very clear, my dear friends, that all of us were given different gifts. All of us were blessed with different skills. Some are in teaching, some are in cooking, some are in driving, some are many others. Meaning to say that we could still help in the harvest in whatever way you can. We can still help in the harvest, laboring in the fields in whatever capacity you can. Whether you are still students, whether you just finished elementary level, or no level at all, you can be a part of the laborers in the vineyard. We can be helpful only if we would allow the Lord to lead us. We would only be helpful if we are willing to go out of our comfort zones. We are only able to help in the vineyard if, what Auntie Sam said earlier, put our selfish motives last. Or delete it at all. Right? Focus with Christ. Focus on the mission that you are called for. But yet, humanly speaking, it's very difficult. Very, very difficult. That's why I was talking with Reverend Narciso after the day after the assembly. I said, Amay, I really salute you, because for a job well done. You know, I could just see your face during the business meeting, and I know, even though I do not see your eyes near, but I can see it that your eyes were red during that time because you are stressed. Stressed because of the things going on, that how you wish you could do something, but your hands are tied and very limited. But I said, congratulations, because you maintained your poise. You have ended with a big bang that somehow the little drop will ripple. And our conversation went on. And so, what makes our trip difficult? What makes our trip difficult? Possessions. Right? We are so hungry of possession. Whether it be material things, whether it be in our work, whether it be in leadership, we are so hungry with possession. We are so hungry of leadership that even though we know that we cannot, we pretend that we can. Right? We pretend that we can. That's why instead of making a good result, as one of the comment during the business meeting, ginakalo-kalo natin. We make a very delicious chop suey because we do not know how to do our job. We are hungry of the position. We are hungry of earthly wealth. Well, having these material things is not bad. Right? It is not bad if we are blessed with all this material things that we possess. But if these things would pull us away from God, if these things would pull us away from the very mission that we are called for, then I think, my dear friend, you should think again. Think again. If you would look at the Bible, I think it's in Romans or Mark, I'm not so sure. I cannot memorize my Bible. But when the Lord sent out His disciples, He said, take nothing. Take nothing from you. But go in pairs. No? Because you will be provided for. Yeah. No? You will be provided for. But nowadays, when we travel, hala, as we would be bringing all our house. Now, especially the ladies. When you travel, you bring all your house. Right? So, travel light. Owning these possessions are good, but how do we manage them? Or are they the one managing us? Number 2, our jobs. Right? Our jobs. Whether it be in the office, whether it be in the house. We all need to work so that we can put food on the table. We all need to work so that we can pay our bills. Last Thursday, I was laughing in the room because as I was, preparing for the meditation and doing some work and preparing for a few things, my brother said, "To, more is outside. they will be disconnecting our electricity. So, what? Wait! Wait! You know, so there goes the celebration. More had it. You know, we need money to make our lives go around. Quote unquote. We cannot survive without money because we cannot buy food. But my dear brethren, the question is, how do we use this money? How do we manage our jobs? I know there are a lot of jobs right now that cannot be avoided. You know, like our frontliners, you know, like the BPO people, or there are a lot of jobs that is really, you know, you can work during the Sundays. And we cannot blame them for that. Because that is how life has to be. And we do not condemn them as well for that. But we support them. But the point here, my friends, is this. How do we manage the job? Or maybe the job is managing us. Right? To many, yes, it's just good that we are a small church, but I'm very sure in the big churches, many parishioners sitting there physically, but manipulating their gadgets, the business meeting, gatransak negosyo, while in the church. But I also admire those parishioners who, upon entering the church door, would mute their cell phones. You know, so if our jobs, my dear friends, would hinder us or would hamper our harvest, then again, think wisely. Yes, gadgets can be negative. It can also be positive. It depends on how we use them. Lastly, our relationships. Right? Our relationships would also play a big factor in our harvest. Our love life. Right? Pag mag-away kayo ng partner mo, I will not go to church because namamaga ang mata. Iyak ng iyak. Right? I will not go to church because maraming pasa. Right? Or worship time, Sunday time is our only we time. Right? Or I will not go to church because so-and-so is there and it will just make my blood pressure rise if I would see the person. Or maybe you'll say, I will not go to church because they do not listen to me. They do not respect me anymore. So I will not go to church. So relationships, my dear friends, can also play a big part in slowing down our harvest. Relationships can also play a big role in our journey. But again, going back to continuing with relationships, if I may use the word of the new generation, we are making God as the third wheel of our relationship. Si Lord ang chaperon. Okay? But if this relationship would pull us out in our service to Him, then my dear friend, think twice. Think twice. The Bible is also clear. I just don't know what passage, but this is one of the justification that I would sometimes tell myself. If getting married would be the reason of slowing you down and giving you problem in your ministry, don't get married. That is somewhere in the Bible. Yeah. You know, babe, don't feel bad, okay? I love you. Okay? So sometimes we are on the wrong track. We are making our relationship a reason of not doing what we ought to do in the field. Our society has deceived us, making us jealous with our neighbors and friends who has many properties, who has excellent jobs, who are in the limelight of leadership, who have wonderful, very sweet relationships. It is never wrong to have all these things. Right? It is not wrong, it is not a sin, it is not bad to have all these things as long as they will not hamper our service to God. As long as these possessions, these jobs, these leadership roles, these relationships would inspire us to continue to serve the Lord. Because we all know that all these things are temporary. All these things will soon pass. But at the end of the day, as we would always say, only what's done for Christ will last. God has provided us these properties, these jobs, these leadership roles, these relationships for the purpose of blessing our lives, for the purpose of using them as an inspiration to serve Him. God has blessed us with all these resources for us to creatively and be resourceful in serving Him, in doing the harvest. But how have we used them? Matthew 6, chapter 31 to 34. That is again on Matthew chapter 6, verses 31 to 34. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Philippians 4:19. Philippians 4:19. And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus. In closing, let me share this article that was shared by Reverend Peña Cerrada. The author was not mentioned, but the article is entitled, "Our Trip is Very Short." a woman climbed up the bus and sat down beside a man, hitting him with her numerous bags. Okay? Hitting the man with her numerous bags. Very travel, I don't know. Alright? When the man remained silent, the woman asked him why he did not complain when she hit him with her bags. The man replied with a smile, "There's no need to be upset about something so insignificant, as our journey together is so short, because I'm getting off at the next stop." This answer disturbed the woman so much, she asked the man to excuse her and thought the words needs to be written in gold. Each of us must understand that our time in this world is so short, that darkening it with useless arguments, jealousy, not forgiving others, discontentment, and bad attitudes are a ridiculous waste of time and energy. Did someone break your heart? Stay calm. The trip is too short. Haruy. Did someone betray you? Intimidate, cheat, or humiliate you? Relax. Don't be stressed. The trip is too short. Masakit. Did someone insult you? Stay calm. Ignore it. The trip is so short. Did someone make a comment that you didn't like it? Stay calm. Ignore. Forgive. Keep them in your prayers and love them. Still, for no reason, the trip is too short. Whatever the problem some bring to us, it is a problem only if we think of it. Remember that our journey together is too short. No one knows the length of our trip. No one has seen tomorrow. Nobody knows when it will arrive at its stop. Our trip together is too short. Yeah. Let us appreciate friends and family. Again, let us appreciate friends and family. Keep them in good humor. Keep them in good humor. This is one thing I really appreciate with Reverend Narciso. You know, that he would always have a good humor every day on Facebook. So keep them in good humor. Respect them. Let us be respectful, kind, loving, and forgiving, because we will be filled with gratitude and joy. After all, our trip together is very, very short. I hope with this, my friends, we have been reminded that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers is very few. So there's no more time to stay negative because our trip is too short. God bless, and see you again next Sunday.